To you, Stuart, and yeah, there's this concern throughout Europe about what's happening in Ukraine, especially with the tension over the weekend. Let's go to the Belgian paper, Le Soir, which is headlining Ukraine, the spectre of civil war. The photo there is of pro-Russian separatists guarding a police headquarters in Slavyansk in eastern Ukraine, not far from the Russian border. Let's switch to Der Spiegel. It has a story saying that the escalation now in Ukraine will make the diplomatic mission that much harder. It was already going to be very difficult indeed, wasn't it? The quote there is from the German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who's saying, don't have too high expectations for Geneva discussions on Thursday, at the same time as saying, yes, the situation is highly dangerous.
Like it when we do this in the press review, you've been looking as well at the local press, the Ukrainian and the Russian papers as well.
Well, of course, you have to try and be as balanced as possible. So I turned to the Kiev Post and to its opinion page, and it is actually taking a piece from The Guardian, which if you're going to read a piece this Monday, Stuart, and anybody, I recommend this piece in the Kiev Post and Guardian. It's by James Meek, and you can see the headline there, most Ukrainians are neither loyal Russians nor fascists. Now, he has extensive experience in Ukraine, and he's saying that the whole discussion now is about really too polarizing of what's going on in terms of the Ukraine people as a whole. If you live in Ukraine, you must either be a loyal vassal to Russia or a fascist in some way. Of course, he goes through painstaking detail about why that's not the case, one worth reading. Now, that article actually prompted me to then go and have a look at the Russian press. And Pravda, yes, it still exists. It has a circulation of 100,000, and it's still linked to the Communist Party in Russia. There you can see their piece, nothing less than anti-fascist freedom fighters take the initiative. And of course, the quote there is, the freedom fighters in eastern Ukraine are taking the cause to fight against the scourge of the junta in Kiev, the junta that has hijacked the Kiev parliament. So that paper, Pravda, saying Russia is being portrayed as the cowboy in the black hat, the eternal bad boy, and that's just propaganda, staggering propaganda. So Pravda means truth in Russian, doesn't it?
OK, and you've also found another piece in the Russian papers, an opinion piece. This is actually arguing that Russia's in a weak position, which seems unlikely.
Well, this is very striking. It's in the Moscow Times, and again worth reading. Alexei Beyer, a writer, is saying, there you can see the headline, Why the World Looks at Russia with Disdain. And he's saying that Russia is weak. First of all, the annexation of Crimea. Crimea is not strong economically. Eastern Ukraine, not strong economically. Russia's efforts there will harm the economy. Sanctions will ruin the Russian economy. Russia is weak militarily as well, he argues, saying a new Cold War would be suicidal for Russia. Now, he's saying that in the Soviet era, the world looked at Russians in a compassionate eye, saying, well, that's the land of the gulags. And in the 90s, people looked at Russia saying, well, there's hope. And there's a prospect of some kind of change. And now what they're saying is that Russia is always full of horror and it will not change. So a fascinating piece.
Finally, the American press, Nick, Washington got rather a big challenge.
Well, I was really surprised about the lack of coverage in the American press this Monday about events in Ukraine, but I did see this editorial in the Washington Post, and you can see there I've chosen a sentence from the official editorial. It may be too late to prevent war in eastern Ukraine. Other quotes from that piece, Stuart. If Ukrainians are forced to fight for their country, they should be helped with small arms. So fascinating piece. This one, for have a bit of a lighter feel about this whole event and tension, is in the Huff Post. Get this headline. Is Russia about to annex the moon? I was like, this must be in Huffington Post comedy. Not at all. It's about the Deputy Prime Minister, Dmitry Rogozin, who is also in charge of the National Aerospace Program in Russia. And he seriously wants to not have several visits to the moon, but actually have a permanent base there. He wants to mine resources and have, what is it? The quote is a permanent presence in space. So, of course, no stopping the ambition of the Russians at the moment.
You never know. All right, Nick, thank you very much, Nick, with the international papers. Coming up for you, the very latest news, of course. And as the tension continues to mount in the east of Ukraine, today in Focus, we have a very special report for you on both sides of the Ukraine-Russian border. Now, within that report, one of our teams actually arrested by the Russian security services.